Welcome to the Takeoff Experience, where I sit down with highly driven people to talk about their journey, their failures, and their successes. If you want to take off in your career, your business, your finances, or your mindset, then this podcast is for you. Welcome back to the Takeoff. We got a special guest in the booth who's going to be blessing us with gems today. So this is my bro. So Jermaine is a co-founder of a startup called Groundfloor, who are building private clubhouses for remote workers to relax, work, and reconnect with others. So I hope you guys are ready for the gems that's going to be dropped today. How you doing today, bro?
I'm doing all right, man. My chest is slightly hurting, but obviously I have my COVID test, so I'm all good in that. But
okay, chest is hurting. Like what? Like flu type or?
Yeah, I think I'm coming down with the flu. To be honest, I'm just run down. Man,
is it?
Is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
But other than that, I'm all right. How you doing?
Yeah. I'm all good. I'm working. You know what's interesting, right? You're in Brussels right now, isn't it? You're in Brussels right now. Tell the people why you're in Brussels right now.
Okay, so it's pretty long, but technically I managed to secure my US working visa, which is stressing itself. So technically I've been working illegitimately from the United States, which is slightly mad, isn't it? Because you can't go. You can only stay there for 3 months, and you can only act as like a tourist. So I've obviously, because I've set up this business with Jamie, my co-founder, and Trim as well. I sort of needed to legitimize my stay in there, because every 3 months I had to fly back. And the last time I flew back, I was actually interrogated, and taken to.
Yeah, and they take it seriously, innit?
Yeah, it was the first time that I was shook, innit? I can't lie, bro. They must have taken me to some side room, and I had to show them, I came up with some elaborate story. I said, I'm on a sabbatical. I've got X amount of funds and that. There was one question. She was like, I said to them I had 20 bags, and which is £20,000. And she was like, all right, show me. And I was jittering because we ended up only showing her 9, and she was like, where's the rest? I was like, it's all in different places, isn't it? So the thing is, unless they find enough evidence, they can't say. Yeah. We thank God, boy, because I'm here and I'm back.
Wow, that's insane. That's crazy. Yeah, I know the States is a little bit techie, because my fiance, she's got a green card and she has to go back every year, at least once a year. But I think she went back maybe 13 months after the last time, and they did a similar thing that they did to you. Were saying why are you not coming? Why are you not staying in the country? Why do you keep on leaving? She had to make an excuse, obviously I'm training to be a doctor, so that's why And they were like, if you do this next time, we're gonna take it from you. So they're serious, it's crazy.
They're annoying, but we're here, man.
Wow, that's mad. So you gave us a little bit of your insight, right? So you're traveling to get your visa. You're in Brussels now. You're gonna be going back to San Francisco tomorrow. Can you give us a bit of an insight into the day and life of Jermaine?
Yeah, I mean, right now, so Groundfloor's been officially open, where you can go to it in San Francisco for 3 weeks now. We've got around 95 members who, use the space for, sort of wellness classes, all the way through to just coming there and working, all the way down to people bringing friends and hosting dinner parties. So I've seen quite a lot in the past couple of weeks, because I think for us, Groundfloor is about creating an extension of your home. Obviously COVID has been brutal to everyone, and everyone has seen the same 4 walls for a long time now. So I think what was super important for us is just bring people back together and bring good people back together. But going back to what my day-to-day looks like, it's usually, it's sort of split out amongst the co-founders, and I deal with everything to do with member acquisition and retention to an extension. So I'll get up in the morning. So I'll tell you a day 2 weeks ago, I'll get up at 6:30.
Oh wow! Okay.
Go and open the space up for 7. I will then do hella operational checks to make sure the space is ready for members to come in, because we're open 7 to 11 at night time, pretty much 7 days a week. during that time, I'll deal with random member requests and just try and make sure everyone's like having a decent time and there's a bit of a vibe.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people probably members or have been to WeWorks and it's pretty dead, right? So, you know, it's just about being very like hospitable. So during the day, as I'm doing that, I'll then sort of organize doing like potential membership calls because you have to apply to become a member of Groundfloor. So I do like, I've done probably around like generally like 450 calls over the past like 3-4 months with like people.
Really? Wow.
Because I think what's super important is that you have a community of people who hold the same values of what you're trying to project as a club. Otherwise, it becomes very wayward and offset very quickly. And you know, I think even in today's world where everyone talks about like Web3 or this and that, like no matter what it is, like I think coming back to basics, it's like people want to be able to connect on in like real life. You know, everyone talks about metaverse and that, and I'm like, yeah, that's all great. And I think, you know, down the line for sure, and we're starting to see a ramp up. But you know, we've been locked up for like X amount of years. Like, I'm not trying to do digital no more. No offense, but that's me personally, and that's what some of my members think. So you know, I'll do that, and then it'll get to like maybe around like 4 or 5, and then I'm sort of like, I wouldn't have any more phone calls with members. I'm usually just trying to host and entertain members in the space. You know, just trying to get people, like connect people, I guess. Sort of facilitate like people who might need to know someone else, or this person might like this person or something. Like I think, you know, just helping build and foster relationships. And then I'll go home. So I live by a park in SF, which is a beautiful park, Buena Vista Park. I will take a slow stroll, as I like to walk everywhere, because SF is only 7 by 7 miles, so super small.
So how big it is?
Yeah. It's tiny.
Wow, 7 miles. Whew.
Yeah, bro. So
crazy.
Like, however, the people in San Francisco, no offense, and if anyone's from San Francisco listening, you guys are spoiled because 7 by 7, you can walk that all the time, and people tell me from like 15 minutes is too long a walk, and I'm like, okay, but each to their own.
15 minutes is a long walk.
Yeah.
Wow. They ain't getting their activities points in a month then.
Exactly. They're missing out. But then in the evening, I try and do like less membership acquisition and more like data and product stuff. It's like my actual responsibility, even though I think early stage founders, you wear all hats, so you do a bit of everything. But is my actual core, what my background is a product and data guy. So I work very closely with our CTO to just try and understand what needs to be built next. Sort of like any data things that my co-founder Jamie, who's CEO, might need for like fundraising or trying to make projections on new locations and stuff like that. It's just really important to constantly understand, you know, the data and how people are using your space and stuff. So yeah, that's it really.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a jam-packed day, and we're definitely gonna unpack, you know, some of that. Not maybe even all of it if we can. On this episode, I just wanted to kind of like just go back a bit in terms of, you know, talking about a bit about your origin. You know, where are your parents from?
Nigeria, from Edo State.
Yeah, definitely. Edo State, yeah. Right. Have you been back?
Yeah, of course.
Recent.
About 3 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, 3 years ago. Yeah. I went back to Nigeria last year, and it was sick. But I hadn't been like before then, like for 17 years. So like I missed a big chunk of going. Yeah. So yeah, like it's okay. So Nigeria, Edo State. Yeah. Right. That's sick. And were you born here or there?
I was born in London. Born in London.
You were born in London. Okay, so you're born and raised in Northwest London. Wow. So, because I always trying to like figure out like where does an entrepreneur come from? Does it like either your parents are they into that? Someone in your family into it?
Yeah. So my dad. It's funny actually. I was talking to my mum about this, but realistically, my mum's always like, you know, she's been about family, but always been about her career. My dad's always tried to help foster her career in like HR.
Okay.
He's like a HR business partner for the Home Office. And so my dad is always like sort of just held like good, content jobs and stable
Mm-hmm.
jobs as like operational managers of wholesalers.
Mm-hmm.
But during his time, he's always been dipping in and out of like
Okay.
property management, having different like
Okay.
flats and stuff, as well as like he opened up a Nigerian restaurant in Hornsey back
Mm-hmm.
in like 7 years ago. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, it sort of shut down. Things weren't going great with that. Just restaurant and hospitality business, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
is probably one of the most difficult profit-winning businesses ever. But
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, I appreciate for everyone trying. So he's always done it, and he's always been like to me, like at the end of the day, like just if you've got a solid base, like you know, do what you need to do, but
Mm-hmm.
ensuring you have that solid base.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was speaking to one of my close friends who you know, Demola, and we were
Mm-hmm.
talking about like just the
Yeah.
West African upbringing of children,
Yeah.
like the
Mm-hmm.
fact that me and my sisters were all forced to like do like arithmetic maths back in
Okay.
school. We would get forced after school, you know, get
Wow.
beats if you don't do it as well. And if you even get it wrong, I was like,
I
there's
shouldn't even be
certain things,
laughing. Man.
there's certain things that obviously need to change with that. However, I think
Yeah.
it was training for us because at the end of the day, we all me and my sisters, I would say, you know, we all have creative knacks, but we all
Yeah.
did like quite, you know, I guess sort of sciencey subjects. Like
Mm-hmm.
my youngest sister is a great example.
Yeah.
My parents forced her to do her science degree at Nottingham,
Mm-hmm.
for which she ended up getting like majority of like firsts, and then she's
Okay.
now
Wow.
an A&R manager working with like J5 and stuff. So like,
Wow.
I think there's like you just need to trust the process. Like I think, you know,
Yeah.
parents are putting us through that training in like
Mm-hmm.
ways that as a child you just don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not gonna understand.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that's where I think that's where we sort of get it from, man.
Wow, wow, wow. That's crazy. You know what? Yeah, you said a lot because like I fully agree with like the whole I feel like if you got a grounded in one area and actually talking about that, right? What did you study at uni for
I
the
just
listeners?
know.
I know what you studied. You did law, right? Okay, cool. So you did a subject that is quite it's probably quite intensive up there with, you know, medicine, accounting and all them kind of degrees is seen as like a very serious degree. But you didn't decide to go down that path. But I feel like the disciplines and the skills that you learned from doing that is probably helping you with other areas. And I think this is a great thing sometimes, like you said, you trusted the process. And I think it'll be interesting. I don't know what I'm gonna be like with my kids, honestly. What do you think you're gonna be like with your kids? Are you gonna be strict and be like, yeah, you need to do like science, maths, you know,
Nah,
or you gonna or
I
practical?
think, I think look, at the end of the day, I think, and I said this to one of my exes actually, is the
Mm,
fact that like I think our parents just lived a different life, and you know they
mm,
needed to do what they needed to do to put food on the table, right?
yeah, yeah.
And so I like massively appreciate that. I think going forward though, like you know, we have the world is generally our oyster. Like I've just turned 30 as
Hmm.
of yesterday, right? And I'm
Hmm.
here in
Happy
Brussels.
birthday.
I appreciate that, man. I'm here in Brussels and flying out to San Francisco. Something that
Hmm.
I would have never have dreamed of. I remember when I was
Yeah.
at the University of Sussex and I was speaking to one guy and I was like, I'm
Mm.
gonna be on 100k by the age of 30. I, mate, like, don't get me wrong, I ain't making that, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
where I am right now, like, I'm sure, like, so many people dream about being in Silicon Valley, for example. Like, it's
Hmm.
something that I did as well.
Hmm.
And just to have that opportunity, I'm super grateful. And like,
Yeah.
just need to always like remember that, you know, there's other people who will never ever get this chance. So like, really try
Yeah.
and live it. So
Yeah, yeah, 100, bro. You're in a situation where you got freedom and you're doing exactly what you want to do. Do you know what I mean? And actually, talking about that, because I'm gonna get into this. So, what was your first job after uni? What was
oh,
your first few jobs after
so
your law degree after you
so
graduated?
actually, so after law degree, I actually did a
Mm.
master's in management at UCL.
Okay. Oh yes, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so I did that because the whole premise was like my parents wanted me to do law because they were like, "What are you gonna do?
yeah.
What are you gonna do with history? Because you're gonna become a historian."
Mhm.
And I was like, "Nah, not
Mhm.
really, but all right, cool." I did it anyways, and then the whole idea for doing the masters in business was to get that business acumen. I think I was massively
Mhm.
lacking,
Yeah.
but I think you know having done that. like it definitely set me up well to get my first job, which is working at American Express in like
Okay.
sort of marketing analytics.
Okay.
So I did that for 2 years, and that was, I think it was good to put me in the fire in that sense and
Mhm.
understand what the real world is actually like.
Yeah.
How to just be a bit more switched on, because I would just always like blag my way around things. Usually, that's I feel like I'm
Mhm.
always rolling the dice in the right way. But
Mhm.
then I started to be like, this is actually getting slightly boring. To be honest, I'm not
Mhm.
actually enjoying it. I enjoy the money.
Yeah.
The money was cool because I was young. I was living
Mhm.
back at home as well, with my parents, so
Mhm.
I wasn't paying
Yeah.
anything. I was just earning.
Yeah.
But I was like, is this it? Is this actually it? So,
Yeah.
like 2 years into that, I started speaking with one of my friends who was currently traveling, called Connor.
Mhm.
He never went to uni, but
Mhm.
he was. We were proper like thinking like, we love football. We talk about
Yeah.
football all the time. Why don't we just like try and create? Like, why don't we create something around that? Which led to
Yeah.
us like coming up with this concept called Fanfare, which was like a live streaming
Okay.
app to debate about football. Back before you had
Mhm.
like Instagram Live and Periscope and all those
Yeah.
things. Um, and that was really interesting because we managed to like raise some
Mhm.
money. Like how
Yeah.
honestly I can't
You
remember.
raise money on that.
Yeah,
Mad.
yeah, raise money. We
Wow.
raised a little 250. So
Okay.
yeah,
1,000.
yeah, 250,000, man.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
from one company as well. Like now thinking about it,
Wow.
I don't know how they gave us that cash, boy. And looking back, I wish we just put
Yeah.
it in property or something random like that. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
but nah, they were, yeah. So we raised that, and we did that
Mm.
for two solid years. So that
Mhm.
was what I was doing full time. So as soon as we raised the
Mhm.
money, I was still at Amex, but then
Okay.
sort of went to my parents to let them know, look, I'm changing jobs, doing my own
Mhm.
thing. And they were like, not sure about this, which is always the
Yeah.
case. Everyone knows American Express, like big corporate companies, right? Your parents are like,
Mhm.
that's so stable. Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
And I was like, just like, I'm safe, I'm comfortable. Like, it's
Yeah.
it's good. So yeah, then quit Amex, did that for 2 years, and that was just, we were just very naive, is what I'm gonna say.
Mhm.
To be honest,
Okay.
we were just like spending a lot of company money on things that didn't need to be spent on. I don't
Okay.
think we were really understanding the true grit of
Mhm.
startup lifestyle in terms of just being
Yeah.
smart with money. Actually, now going back to that, actually, I'm now thinking, what was my biggest financial mistake? I actually think
Mhm.
Fanfare was probably my biggest financial mistake, actually,
Okay.
um,
Okay. Wow.
because we burnt through a lot of money. That 200
Mm.
very very quickly.
That's
Which
crazy. How quickly? Because a lot of people think, rah, Jermaine, 250K. A lot of people think 250K is life changing, and it might be life changing for a lot of people,
Yeah,
but
that,
it's crazy because you've now got it, and you're now telling me, wow, we burnt through that quickly.
it must have been, bro. It must have been a year we burnt through that.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. To the point that we had to. Now, this is crazy. I've never really spoken too much on this as well.
Mm,
And if my parents are listening, boy, they're gonna be like, "You're crazy." But
mm.
we like got to a point. It was like a year and a few months where we
Mhm,
had no money. Like we had no money. Fanfare wasn't doing the numbers on the downloads for us when we
mhm,
released. We spent a lot of money
mhm,
on marketing. Didn't see
mhm,
the returns. There was a lack
mhm,
of tracking as well, which,
mhm.
as I say, goes back to that naivety of not really understanding what we're
Yeah.
trying to get out as an outcome. And
Mhm,
we were like, okay, we don't really want to go and work for someone because we both hated that
mhm.
prospect from our
Yeah.
past experience.
Mhm.
So we were like, all right, we've got like, let's put our heads together. We got to switch up. We got to do something else. So
Yeah.
what we realized is that, okay, we had like a good team around us who were good at like quickly making apps for people, for clients. Um,
Yeah.
because we were like, luckily enough, one of my co-founders now, again, as we've linked up, called Trim, he's based in
Mhm.
Kosovo. And
Okay.
we sort of developed a really good bond when he was initially working as a contractor, and then we brought him
Mhm.
in house. And
Mhm.
we realized that the cost of living and stuff was so much cheaper out there, but you could pay people well.
Mhm.
and they'd be
Okay.
really reliable. So if anyone out there is listening, Kosovo for software engineers and just the Eastern Bloc in general,
Really?
great market,
Okay.
great market.
Okay.
And we were like, all right, cool. Then we started hitting up, doing all sorts of trying to find clients, from
Mhm.
scanning LinkedIn job posts to seeing who's
Mhm.
looking for an engineer to reaching out to that person, being like, look, we can build whatever you need that engineer to build
Yeah.
really quick. But look, it actually went pretty well, to be honest. It went to the
Mhm.
fact that we ended up working with Chelsea Football Club, Coca-Cola for the World Cup
Mhm.
2018,
Yeah.
Schweppes. I got flew out, boy. I got flew out to
Wow.
Munich to go and
Wow.
work on this initiative with Bayern Munich, um,
Wow.
and like stuff like that, and like also another agency called Oliver, a creative agency in London,
Mhm.
to do work there, and like all of that wouldn't have been
Mhm.
possible if we didn't dig deep and grind during those periods.
Yeah.
But one thing I realized is that agency life is not for me. Like pitching, chasing,
Yeah.
like you're always chasing your tail in the agency world, and this is
Yeah.
very commonly known.
Yeah.
And for me personally, being a product, that's when I started to know I was a bit more of a product guy. I was like investing a lot of time speaking with my engineers day to day, making sure I understand what we
Mhm.
were actually creating for clients. And I was like,
Mhm.
that's my passion, not this
Yeah.
pitching and chasing and coming
Yeah.
up with decks and stuff. I was like, after 6 months, started looking for a job.
Okay.
To like, you know, so that was by the age of like 20, 25. And I was also
Okay.
living with like my partner, like one of my other partners at that time, and
Mm.
I got into a really quick rut of, I guess you could call it like, I don't want to say like depression, but I was very lost.
Okay.
I was
Mm.
very lost for a good couple of like a good solid 3 to 4 months because I just
Mhm.
didn't want to work for someone, man. Like I had
Yeah.
interviews,
Yeah.
but my attitude probably just stank. I was like,
Mhm.
why am I going to do this? Like I've sort of like done this before. This seems boring, and I wanted
Mhm.
to try and do something a bit more creative. So I actually
Yeah.
looked into getting into directing, so like TV directing for docu
Mhm.
series and stuff. Um, had a few contacts through one of my partners, like my ex partner, one of my ex partners,
Mhm.
right, as I said, and she put me on to her uncle, and like also through friends and stuff, and like I have books in my old place at the moment where you can still see that like I tried to really get on it, but
Mhm.
I just couldn't. I just think like at the time I just wanted to do something a bit more creative, have a bit more freedom.
Yeah.
But then I found out it's also a big grind. Like you're literally running around as an assistant for someone, being a mini T boy
Yeah.
slash mailroom guy. And I was like,
Yeah.
nah. I've done too much to like literally start all over. So
Start from the
it
bottom again. Mad.
yeah, exactly. So it led me to a cool company at the time called Fat Llama.
Mhm.
They're a tech rental marketplace which are still
Mhm.
going today. Widely used in like London and sort of like
Mhm.
metropolitan cities where you can rent like camera equipment. I'm sure like a lot of people know what it is by
Okay.
now. And what led me to them was the fact that there is a accelerator program where people
Mhm.
who have ideas or startups go to, and they get some investment for some like for like a pro in exchange for like being on this program where they get mentoring and
Yeah.
adding some resources. And this program is called Y Combinator, and they rarely invested in UK
Okay.
companies because they're from Silicon Valley. They invested in
Yeah.
Airbnb, Coinbase,
Mhm.
Reddit, uh, like the list goes on. Flexport,
Mhm.
all of these like companies that are like like gargantuan right
Mhm.
now. And I was like, raw. There was like an operations like role, which I thought was like a data role, and I was like, I
Mhm.
could maybe work my way in as that because
Mhm.
I've got like data experience from American Express,
Yeah.
but then try and transition into product, which is really what I wanted to do. So I went there,
Okay.
got the operations job, um, and I remember like they gave me an offer real quick, and I was like, right, this is quick.
Mhm.
And then I checked the job description out, the contract, and it said like, oh yeah, you'll be doing shift work, and I was like, huh? Was that?
What?
I
Shift
thought,
work.
what do you mean? I thought I was an operations like, manager. That was the actual role, operations manager. Then to see it says, oh yeah, you might have to do some weekends and do evening shifts. I was like, yeah, I ain't sure about this. So I had a back and forth with them, and like finally after like a week, managed to get out of doing weekends and shift work and just doing Monday to Friday. And I was like, look, this is good enough for now. I just wanted to be in a company that I believed were going places. I did that. So I'm in there now for nearly a year and nearly 2 years. And during that time, I learned everything that I have taken to me today and where I am because of that job. Like, there's no two ways about it. And I say to everyone, if you really want to learn how to, like, don't get me wrong, I might not succeed at the startup game. Like, and I'm very cool with that because I've learned so much anyway. If you really want to understand how the cogs really move, go into a company that has been invested in by quite prestigious investors and stuff, because you really start understanding like what it takes. Like, I'm telling to the point that, like, I had like, I was on call pretty much like 24/7 for my role. I created a role for myself in the end. I would literally report directly into the COO and just be like technically like a SWAT person for random projects that they needed. And so that taught me a lot, man. That's really where my data skills just ramped up. Like, I know SQL now. I know a bit of code, like Python and Ruby, and like tiny.
That's sick.
You can check out my GitHub and that if anyone wants to.
I might test you on that a little bit later. I need to do my reading though, because I haven't done like SQL in a while. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's mad. So Y Combinator, yeah. So you worked for them for a little bit.
So
that is epic.
Llama, so Fat Llama were invested in by Y Combinator.
Okay, so I guess you got to interact with Y Combinator.
Just like the mentors with, like, obviously, like whatever they were telling our C team at the time, co-founding team at the time, would obviously filter back, right? So there was a lot of just constant change and rigor to just everyday life. Like, it was tough, man. I'm not gonna lie. It burnt me out. And it burnt out me, like, I'm not gonna like, pretty much a lot of the company.
Everybody.
Like, everyone was tired, bro, at the end. Like, we even talk about it now. Like, even because that's where my co-founder at the moment, Jamie, that's where me and him met.
You see, nothing is insignificant in life. Do you know what I mean? Your whole journey led you there, right?
Yeah.
Because if you didn't meet him there, and let's say you didn't even do it American Express, or you didn't do anything else, you may never have gone down that path. This is always what I say to people. Like, whatever you're doing, you always do it for a reason. Like, okay, so imagine you just like, you know what, I'm not gonna even do my 9 to 5. I'm just gonna do a startup straight away. Yeah, you'll get your experience, but maybe you're not doing what you're doing now, kind of thing. You know, where you're kind of like heading to that success, and you've now raised money again. So yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, like it's crazy. Like, I feel like anything you've done in life will always lead you to where you are. So you did the stint at Fat Llama, and you said that you were burnt out. And then did you just was like, yeah, I'm just out of it?
Nope. They sacked us.
Oh, really?
So these are the things people don't recognize, is that when a startup starts running out of funds, everyone's on the chopping line. Okay. It's not a case of like, you can do great work. Like, I saved the company generally. Like, it's something that, I think you can find in my CV and LinkedIn and stuff. Like, nearly $1 million like, annually through creating a fraud algorithm with a close friend of mine, because I did a lot of like fraud and algorithm type stuff at the company there, like data. And irrelevant of all of that, like, you can't, like, no one's indispensable in it, especially when you've got investors up against you and it's time to grow or raise that next round, or stream operations to become more profitable. So they pretty much axed off, like, I don't even know if I can say this, but anyways, like, probably around like 65 or 70%.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Start of life, innit?
It is. And I learned from that.
Life.
After that, I learned, at the end of the day, people got to do what they got to do, even though you might not agree with it. But this is like, it's business. But however, in terms of how me, Jamie, and Trim operate Groundfloor. Like, it's people first, man. Like, no matter what.
Yeah.
That's just what I believe in, and I always want to stay true to that because, I
Yeah.
feel like you only have one life to live, and relationships are a
Yeah.
beautiful thing, man. So don't try and
Yeah.
burn it, man.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I think if it's between cutting somebody or maybe you as a CEO, I always thought this, like, they're CEO of companies, massive companies, they're getting crazy bonuses, they're getting these crazy salaries. And it's come to a decision to, like, make people redundant. Cut your bonus, your salary a bit, you're still going to be living good, or cut them. And they always cut them. I'm like, rah, like, if you cut your salary for a year or 2 years, yeah, okay, yeah, your standard of living is going to drop. It's not going to drop that bad compared to the person that you just, like, now they're gone. Or if you cut your bonus, your $500,000 bonus or whatever you get, like, it's honestly, it's crazy. So I'm glad to hear that you're people first. And actually, this is a nice segue into Groundfloor, because I want to understand, how did you? So you said you met your co-founder at Fat Llama. Did you start Groundfloor straight away, or was there something in between? Okay.
Nah, there was something in between. I did. Was it a 2 year stint? I think like nearly. Sorry about that noise. I think I did like a 2 year stint at a company called Cover, who are
Yeah.
a sort of insurtech platform. They try and provide short-term insurance and long-term insurance in a more flexible manner, from paying for an hour all the way to month. Because I think what COVID has taught us is people can lose jobs or be in financial struggles. So people need like more flexible financial products for that matter. So I got my official first senior product manager job at Cover, which was a blessing because I learned a lot about really working directly with like real good engineers, and who had different like abilities, and just different personalities. We were like when I started, there was only 66 of us. When I left, it was around 160.
Okay.
So
Wow.
we'd grown, like we generally had grown like significantly, and during my time there, I did a lot of soul searching because I just landed that job 2 months before COVID struck, before the first lockdown.
Okay. Wow.
So I was lucky enough to experience like my co-workers in the office and get to know people on like a personal level. But other than that, new bodies came in, and it was very difficult to know who's who, right? As the company grows that big. But one thing I do say is that I understand the importance of. I think that's really where I understood the importance of like how to treat another person, irrelevant of title or seniority and stuff like that. Because Cover generally is a people first place, and I must say it's got the best work culture I've ever experienced.
Okay. Wow.
Like, I had a lot of great times at Fat Llama because we were all young. We were literally, average age was 25 at Fat Llama at that time, and we would go on trips and retreat. It was good, and we'd go out, and I created like a bunch of lifelong friends. But at Cover, the CEO Freddie, and other sort of senior leading people like Andy Tomlinson, like they really understood how to like make people want to work for you, but also have that level of respect that you're also a person, human, and we should also act like how we want to be treated. So I think Cover was fun, man. I wish we could have been in the office a lot more, but it was the perfect. It gave me that I guess that perfect balance of like the data aspect as well as like the product aspect. In terms of, I think my skill, if you ask anyone, even my friends, I think my biggest skill set generally, like even being like humble and stuff, is like my friends call me as a joke like Dr. Leverage, but I understand how to build relationships with people in order to get the best out of them. Like I've always seen myself as like there's a program called Ray Donovan, and he's a fixer. And like the whole concept is like you're a facilitator of people and in different situations, and that's what I see my strength as being. Like I know how to relate to like a lot of different people just because from
Mhm.
growing up, from moving out of leaving London at a really young age to moving to a predominantly white area such as Hertfordshire,
Mhm.
um, to knowing people from all different classes, like
Yeah.
it really allowed me to just listen a lot more. I think
Mhm.
listening is so like sort of like over misunderstood nowadays, and like if you just open your ear and generally give someone an ear, like listen, like
Mhm.
it just does so much for someone, makes someone feel
Yeah.
comfortable. So I think like that combination that there like cover really helped excel that for me.
Okay. Wow. 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 You said a lot. Like, I was just thinking because it was interesting because even before like you got to cover, you were saying that you're doing a bit of soul searching. But even though you were in that, you were still kind of moving towards this. Okay, I want to be a product manager, and you got the chance to experience that, and then you also took some of what you're doing, at Groundfloor in terms of the values. You took some of that from cover because you saw how they treated people first, which I think actually is the modern way to do it. And I feel like a lot of companies in the next 5-10 years, if they don't move that way, some of these big corporation companies, they're going to be gone. They think
100%.
it's funny. They're gonna be gone. Nobody's gonna want to work for them. People are gonna be like, I don't want to work here. When I tell you I want to have leave, you're telling me no, I can't work this. When I tell you like, I'm sick or I'm doing this, you don't give a crap basically about it. People are just gonna just be like, and I feel like we're, even though I know you're not no longer like an employee, I feel like as employees are empowered nowadays to feel like, what, I get to choose where I want to go. Does this company have a good culture? Do they have good perks? Things like that are really important. Even for me, like when I moved, I was like, wow, like if I'm coming here, like it needs to fit what I want. If it's
Yeah,
not gonna fit, I'm not coming. I don't
yeah,
care how much you pay me. I'm not gonna like come there. So yeah, it's very very interesting that you've applied what you've learned to what was this in business. And then okay, so COVID happened, and I know COVID was an interesting year. It was a bit techie to like leave a job and do a startup during COVID. That's probably not the wisest when people are losing their jobs. It's like, yeah, that would have taken a lot of balls. But at what point did you decide, okay, cool. Actually, first, when did the idea come up? How did the idea come up for Ground Floor?
all right. So so Jamie, my co-founder,
Mm-hmm.
he called me back. So where are we now? We're in March 2022, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Jamie called me back in January
Okay.
2021, and
Okay.
out of the blue, like we were just obviously like hadn't seen each other for a while, anyways. We were
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, let's meet. I think we saw each other a few months back. He was like,
Mm-hmm.
called me up. Was like, oh, I've got this idea. I want to create like the next generation of hotels, and I was like, what?
Okay. Next generation hotels.
I was like,
Interesting.
he was like, no, no, no. Like, I'm really sold. I remember it vividly. I was on a walk, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, what are you talking about? Like, I swear you've got a good paying job. Like, relax. He was like, no, no, no. This is what I want to do. I want to go into the real world because he was an ops director at Fat Llama and stuff, and at his
Mm-hmm.
last startup before Groundfloor, and he was living a good life to be honest. And but
Mm-hmm.
he's an architect by training, and has always
Okay.
worked in like a bit of like hospitality operations as well after that. So
Yeah.
he's always been like interested in like architecture, buildings, hotel, hospitality. And so
Mm-hmm.
initially I was like, yo, I don't know how serious you are, but you know, send me the stuff. He was like, no, 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 I've taken myself away. Like his like wife booked him like a weekend, an Airbnb in some random place in the UK to just go on his own to like
Mm-hmm.
map out all of this, all what it was
Wow.
in his head. And so he showed me a picture actually of that, and I was like, maybe he's serious, but it's like everyone, like, not gonna lie, a lot of people tell me they've got good ideas or they want to do this, and that's just the truth.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm always like, it's all great having an idea, but it's all about
Mm-hmm.
execution. And if you don't even
Yeah.
like dip your toe in properly, then
Mm-hmm.
personally, like, unfortunately, I've seen a lot, and I'm just a bit like, I don't really want to hear it. I don't really buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so he's dropped now after that call, and I'm like, oh, okay, great. Then he's called me back like on the weekend again about it, being like, oh, I'm gonna apply for Y Combinator. I'm gonna put you as my co-founder. Do you mind?
Wow.
I was like, what are you talking about? One, I didn't give you permission to why you, what? So you're just calling me to make you your co-founder? Two, I still don't even believe what you're saying. I appreciate the documentation you sent me, but I know nothing about hotels. So I don't get. And then after I went to his house. We sat down the week after, spoke a bit more. I said to him, all right, I understand. The whole premise was oh, okay, we're moving to remote work, right? We're bored of our four walls. Travel's going to open up again. People are going to be remote or hybrid, so they're going to be able to travel more. So people are technically going to be borderless, and they're going to want to experience more because COVID made us reevaluate life when you're at home. Because I think a lot of people were placing a lot of emphasis on the office being the social node of your lifestyle. You'll go to the gym near work. You might meet up with friends after work. You might go for lunch with colleagues around work. So your geolocation and social life were heavily connected with the office. Whereas now you are back home. So you are now prioritizing errands and life admin that you couldn't do before because you could wake up at 5 to 9 for a 9 a.m. meeting. So we were like, all right, cool. So he was like, people are going to want to travel and experience the world more naturally because you haven't been able to travel, and now you're in this new way of work. You can travel. So I was like, all right, this sounds great, but fundamentally, we really don't know how to build a hotel. So I said to him, I've always been, I was a member of Soho House, and I would go and work from there quite a lot. And we were like, he'd been there as well. We were like, they've done they've created this unreal brand that people just love. And there's this sense of FOMO and exclusivity. Yeah. And so we were like, look, why don't we try and create something that was in the middle, that wasn't a WeWork necessarily, because that's very stiff, very cookie cutter, glass windows. But Soho House is very extreme social. Why don't we try and create something that feels super comfortable and inviting, that feels like your home but a bit of an escape? Because I think not many people have a lot of space anyways naturally, so why don't we try and build upon that? And that's what led us to Groundfloor, to be honest, which was which previously was called Commons anyways. But Commons, we went through some Commons are great. There's some legalities that we do, but we changed to Groundfloor. But that's technically how Groundfloor came about. And we were I think we started to notice really very much midway that what people generally just wanted was to meet new people. It's that simple. I think people have great work from home setups, or they still have access to the office, or just those two things. But the main thing was that social culture that surrounded your life, not the office culture, because the office culture was dead at most companies anyways, but the actual social culture that you had around that location, as I said, that radius from your office had decimated. It was gone. It was on the decline. So people just wanted to connect and meet new people, establish new friends, and just try new things out. And people were becoming a lot more experiential. Everyone was doing Zoom quizzes. People started doing sewing, arts, all sort of stuff. People were just learning a lot more about themselves, but we're also open to finding out a lot more about themselves too.
Yeah. Wow. I was just wondering, at what point were you convinced? Because it sounded like initially you wasn't convinced by your friend, and it sounded like you didn't think he would be serious. And you know what? It's funny because when you say that, because you're in the startup world, so you definitely heard a lot more ideas. But I've also had some people as well say, "Yeah, I have this idea," and they never realize it. A lot of people have ideas, but they never realize it. But for you, at what point was it okay, yeah, I actually believe in this vision. I actually want to do this. I want to take the leave. I'm gonna leave, my job, and do it.
Fine. So I guess it works in two steps, right? So initially, I think ideas start from just an initial concept, right? So it's very fluffy, anyways, to begin with. There's no real substance. You have to do the digging to really unearth that. And then I think once you add another head to the equation, such as the person who initially had the idea, you start bouncing back and forth, and it starts to develop naturally and change, right? Like as I
Yeah.
said, the initial concept was like to have like the next generation of like Hilton hotels for young people. Now we're at trying to create social clubs and private clubhouses in multiple neighborhoods, right? So I think, you know, initially, like I enjoy like brainstorming with people anyways.
Okay.
And I'm super, and one thing I must say is that I super am invested in like friendships and relationships, even like outside of work and stuff. Like, you know what I'm like, anyways. Like, I was doing promoting back in the days. Like, you like, I just wanted to be that guy.
Yeah.
And it's not even that I want to be in the spotlight, but it's just nice knowing different circles of people. So I think for me, I was like, all right, this idea leverages a lot of that. So I want to start working with you on it a lot more. So we applied for Y Combinator, but the idea wasn't fleshed out enough when we did, which was initially like 2 months after the initial call up from him to me. And then we were like, because I think that really acts as like a kick in the teeth, because you're like, oh, didn't get that. So what now? We're still in our jobs and we're spending a lot more time. So what Y Combinator always say is like, apply again in like 3 months time. So we started to get more at it, to the point where we're like, okay, we really want to see if there's interest and demand for this. So we did a lot of like online experiments with people, smoke screens tests to really try and understand if there was any demand. And we started to pick up a bit of traction. Couple like 100 people were signing up like every week and stuff. So it was rolling. As at the same time, we were still like trying to understand really what this is. And I think from that point, like, and just when we created the brand of Commons and stuff, like seeing people like reach out on a premise that you have in your head that technically isn't built, but they think it's gonna be built already, because as you know, when you're trying to test the market, you're not saying to them, "Oh, this isn't built." You're trying to act as if, "Oh, yeah, it's here tomorrow." So like, are you interested? And like, then we got like loads of DMs and personal messages. We even put it in our deck of people being like, "Oh, this brand is so cool." Like the aesthetics, like everything, like talks like generally loads of it. And once that started happening, I was like, "Nah, there's something to this." I was like,
"There's something there." Different. Yeah,
it just felt a lot different. So that kept on going. That was like in May of last year, and then got to like. So we've gone to Y Combinator now, and we've actually managed to get a final stage interview. So we're like, we were doing hella prep, because like, I guess it's quite a big thing, isn't it? To an extent. And we got there, we sort of did our interview. We're like pretty chuffed with it. Thought it went like decently well. But unfortunately we didn't get it. They didn't believe in the concept enough. And I think, you know, that second time we were like, all right, well, we do. We were just like, we do. So we're going to just try and raise some money externally. And that's when fundraising really kicked off, like back in June.
Okay. So how did you... The Y Combinator thing is interesting. So you talked about a concept. You were sort of doing like a bit of market research. And how did you do the market research? Was it... Because obviously you didn't have like anything physically built up. So was it that you were getting them to view like what it would look like?
Yeah.
If you... Okay. And then like the brand and how would it be like in this space and stuff like... Okay, that's great. That's great, because a lot of people, they feel like they have to have something built to do market research.
Nah,
and it's like, that's creative. Actually, you know what? We're just going to show you a picture of actually what it could look like. How would you feel? Can you imagine it? We've all got imagination at the end of the day, right? We can imagine ourselves on a beach. We can imagine ourselves on like having this fancy car, bag, watch. So it doesn't take much to imagine. Okay. And then you then use that for Y Combinator, and then you decided to look elsewhere. What was that process like, and how did you actually... Because like if you were to ask me, Atto, how do you like find funding, I would be like, I don't know. So how did you know like how to look and where to look?
I think like, you know, I even get this asked. Someone actually messaged me today. I get asked this all the time now, and I think anyone listening, like generally what we did was we got an Excel sheet. We looked at all the other companies who we thought were somewhat similar or in the same space. We went to a site called crunchbase.com or .co.uk. We typed in that company, went to, some of them show their investors publicly. They might be an angel, they might be like a venture capitalist firm or whatever. And you try and find, what we try to do is find people who could make the decision, not an associate, because associates can't. VC associates can't make decisions, no matter what anyone says. You're wasting your time. And the whole game of a VC is to have as many conversations as possible, even if they're not going to invest, just so that they understand what else is going on out there, right? So we started to learn that real quick, because a lot of people were messing with us, man. Like, a lot of people.
Wow.
And I'm so thankful to Jamie, because he really led on it. I only pitched a few times because Jamie became a pro. He must have spoken with. So the way that we would do it is the Crunchbase thing, and then we'd get Rocket Reach, and then put their LinkedIn into Rocket Reach, which then gives you their email address, and then you shoot them a cold email, and that cold email needs to be hella. So this is one way, anyways. Then I'll tell you the other way, but that cold email just needs to grab their attention. Like, it needs to be straight to the point, because you got to think there's so many other people who are doing stuff, who are emailing these guys, or who might even have warm intros already. We were going in cold a lot of the time. I think like 95% of the time. So Jamie's really good at writing. So he managed to write something quite like propelling, and I would be the one who organizes the automation of getting these cold emails blasted out, man. So he would do the pitching, I'm doing the sourcing in that sense.
Okay.
And that was one way, and that way works really well. I must have sent out over 1,000 emails easily.
Wow.
You can look in my emails, actually, in my inbox, and you just see the same header.
Wow.
So so that was one way. And then the second way, which people don't believe me, but I think this is the best way, and it's the most random, is to, instead of looking for their email on Rocket Reach and stuff like that, is to find them on Twitter. Tech investors live on Twitter. Anyone who thinks otherwise is deluded. That is where they all are, because it's a clout game. They're like trying to talk up a big game, trying to have banter, let alone they know they're stiff. But, you know, there's a tech
they know they're stiff.
There's a tech Twitter, man. Like, it just is what it is. And I learned very quickly that a lot of these people were like trying to see what's out there and see if any founders are going to bite. So a lot of the time, I would see if someone's talking about something, or we found that this person has invested in the space, just a straight DM. Be like, yo, heard you're interested in X. I'm doing this. I'm raising this. And the opportunity is this. That was it. Literally, I can even copy and paste it for anyone who's interested. I can paste you a DM. Like, it's literally like 6 lines. And that was it. And we got many back, bro. One of our biggest investor contributions, like angel investor contributions, came from a great guy called Musab, who's based in Riyadh. And he helped pull together around 400k for us.
Wow.
And I met him via Twitter through someone else. I didn't even meet him directly. So I met a woman who worked for a London company called Hopin, and she does a few angel investments. She didn't even invest in us, but she also spoke with other investors, and she was like, "Oh, I've got a group together. Let's chat." So she's never even met some of these guys that she's chatting to. Just they chat on Twitter. And I was pitching, literally like that. I was pitching, bro.
Wow.
And it was just me. That was actually so you asked Jamie, but that was actually I owned that whole thing, because I was the one on Twitter all the time. So I was the one who took that meeting. And the guy was like, at the end of it, he was like, he asked some difficult questions. He was like, you guys probably don't know how you're going to make money. But he was like, and I was like, then it got to the end. He was like, I'm in for 50k. And I was like, what? Wow. Yeah. And he goes like, if you need more, I can double that. And then I've got some people. Let me know, but I'm not going to push you guys. And then from there, bro, it skyrocketed. Like, things just started changing. That was in July. Things just started changing. The ball started rolling, innit? Because once one investor's on board, everyone's like, all right, I want to hear now. It's like, everyone's scared to make the leading investment. That's why you have like
Mhm.
lead investors, is what they class them as,
Yeah.
because they're the ones who like make that initial commitment because they
Mhm.
believe in it, and a lot of people buy in on that, and so you use it as
Yeah.
like a bit of a bargaining chip to be like, these guys are in, like you're not in, but that's cool.
Mhm.
And then sometimes some are like, oh yeah, we're in now, but
Wow.
we did that, bro, for a solid. So we started fundraising, as I said, mid June. Got no bites till
Okay.
late July, and then
That's not
officially,
bad though.
yeah, yeah, officially closed in. Closed that round. Well, as they say in the startup world, you should always be raising money, boy. So we never officially closed it, but we did in the end in September, and it was in August,
Mhm.
1st of August, when I was like, okay, we've got. I said to Jamie, if we get 180k, I'll quit my job. We got 180k
Mhm.
first week of August. I quit my job.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. How much did you raise in total in the end
we raised
for before you?
literally I think $950,000 or a
Wow.
mil. No, I think a mil
Wow.
actually. I'm pretty sure it's a mil.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy. So obviously your startup is worth that meal even before you've built anything. That's what the concept's worth, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Essentially.
Yeah,
Well, more than that, because you guys have got equity and all
yeah.
of that in there. Wow.
Essentially, it's like I think essentially it's like 10 mil, but
Yeah.
it's
Wow.
all in the air. You know what I'm saying? Until like
Yeah.
there's and it's
Until
all
you make the money back.
so
Okay. Wow. That's crazy. Okay. So you raised that, and that's a great story, because I was just always wondering, like, how do you find investors? Is it them coming to you? Do you go through like all these different types of accelerators? But you guys went through the cold calling way. You did it for a month and a half, which is interesting, because I think a lot of people would have given up probably after the first week. I think, when it comes to raising money. Um, so it's crazy that you guys kept on doing it for like a month and a half, and that's, yeah, like, yeah, that kind of inspiration. That's like one of the kind of stories that I feel like it inspires people, because a lot of people, like I said, they quit, but you guys kept on doing it, doing it, doing it, doing it, and now look where you are. You're in realizing your idea. So okay, so after you raise the money, I want this, because you're based in San Francisco. Why San Fran and not London or anywhere else in the world?
well, there's two main reasons. Firstly,
Okay.
is my co-founder's wife was relocated via work, so
Okay.
he was always planning to move to the States anyways.
Okay.
That's been a lifelong dream of his. And then the
Mhm.
second thing is that we had just we actually tested the American markets quite heavily.
Mhm.
And we saw a lot more interest over there because at the
Okay.
end of the day, like membership clubs are quite a common concept in the UK. I think they're actually
Yeah.
British. Whereas in
Yeah.
the States, other than like New York and like maybe LA to an extent, they're quite
Mhm.
foreign. They have like
Mhm.
country clubs,
Yeah.
in like their closest comparison, but everyone knows that's very like elitist and very like white
Mhm.
and old.
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
we were like,
Exactly.
SF could be cool because there's a lot of tech. There's a lot of people who are involved in tech. I've heard it can be quite diverse, like the Bay Area in general. You just have to
Mhm.
seek them out.
Mhm.
So I was like,
Yeah.
if we can do it here, it will be pretty cool. Because we're in SF, and I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of technical talent there as well, which we might
Yeah.
need at one point. So it will just help lay a good set of foundations, I thought.
Okay.
So that was the main reason, to be honest. But like, look, it was a finger in the air type situation, no matter what anyone
Okay.
said. But it's paying off. It's paying off, and I'm hoping it pays off for the long term, man. To be honest.
Wow, wow. And you know what? Sometimes you just got to take the leap. Okay, so you chose San Francisco. You moved there. When did you move there again? Last year,
Yeah. So October.
October. Okay, last year October. So you and your co-founder flew over there and then started building the clubs. Is that what happened after?
Yeah. So we pretty much.
Okay.
Well, we had to find like we saw like a lot of locations
Mhm.
in SF, and then we sort of like found one that we were like dead set on, and we were trying to really
Mhm.
get it done. and we finally signed. Like we signed for it on the 1st of December.
Okay. Wow.
And then in SF, one thing that
Mhm.
is very common and known is that it's so difficult to get the official permits from like the city council. They're very
Mhm.
tight with what is getting built. They need to know
Yeah.
everything,
Wow.
and it's actually called like one of the, like a lot of people say like of all places like never ever start there because you're not going to get anything open. That's just the genuine truth. So
Mhm.
I think for us, like, we were already in the process. We were like, this is what it is. We need to make it work. And it
Mhm.
made us, it really pushed us into understanding how to navigate those treacherous waters
Yeah.
of just the city and
Mhm.
regulations and laws. Um,
Mhm.
but we were
Yeah.
fortunate enough, like, we had our permits granted on December the 17th, I remember, just before Christmas came in.
Wow.
And we started work, some demolition work and construction work on the 3rd of January this year.
Mhm. Cool. And the designs of the club, was it based on both your visions of how it would look? What's in there? Because I haven't seen it. What's inside? What's inside ground floor?
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it was based off of just our vision, like sort of like a lot of mood boards and
Mhm.
things we felt
Mhm.
like we wanted to create. But what's inside? So
Mhm.
the way it's split up into three, so
Mhm.
three sectors, I guess. It's one. There's a
Mhm.
focus on like productivity, focus on like
Mhm.
wellness, and then a focus on
Yeah.
like connectivity. So when you
Okay.
actually walk in there, the first section that you enter is like around connectivity. So this is a large,
Okay.
like open plan kitchen and lounge area, which we
Mhm.
call like the living room. And
Okay.
the whole concept is like all the furnitures are like deep sofas, like high
Wow.
dining tables, and it's meant to feel like inviting and warm, like your
Mhm.
home. Like you have people in the daytime just putting their feet on the tables and stuff like that. It's just or lying on the sofas and stuff. It's mad
Nice.
chill, like walking around without shoes and stuff. Like
Mhm.
people generally are finding it like their home. So we have that, and then we've got our second section, which is dedicated around like productivity, and that's a library. It's very small,
Mhm.
and it's a lot of dark lighting to sort of like really replicate how a library setting is. And it's all
Yeah.
about focus and zoning in. And then we have like wellness. So we've got like an outdoor gym, which couldn't be a possibility in London. But a small outdoor gym where the sun's always shining in SF, anyways, even though it might not be too
Mhm.
warm. You can always work out outside. So got some equipment, and then we have like a small yoga
Mhm.
studio, which we get wellness instructors to come in and give like meditation, yoga classes and stuff. So that's really like the visual landscape.
Wow. It sounds sick. You know what I was thinking? Because like IKEA, right? I think why IKEA does so well is because of what you just said. It's so inviting. So I was thinking, right, actually, when I think about it, there is nowhere like an IKEA type thing, but it's actually there for you to just chill and sit and do work and talk to other people and have that. Wow, that's a very interesting concept.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Okay, so you did that, and then how did you like start getting your first members? What was that process of
Boy,
getting people to
that's
start like looking at you guys?
yeah. That I mean that stuff. Like obviously, I still try and wrap my head around it today because I'm still doing that stuff. Literally,
Yeah.
as soon as I land in SF, I'm back on it. But initially, like it was just a case of trying to did a lot of like paid advertising via Instagram.
Mhm.
I think like a lot of people between the ages of like I would say like 25 and 40 are on Instagram.
Mhm.
Um, and you can sort of I guess it's what we realize is a lot easier when we're also in that bracket. And I would
Mhm.
call myself and Jamie like very and Trim like we're very like middle of the road guys. So I feel like
Mhm.
we're a good average of like
Yeah.
what the consensus is of what people are doing. And
Mhm.
Groundfloor is meant to be built for the everyday person. It's meant to be like a
Mhm.
destination for every day.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that, like understanding like what segments people were interested in, and trying to, you know, shoot highly, spotlight our ads in their faces, like sort of worked, as well as just like sort of speaking to people, getting it out through like word of mouth, and also just like reaching out to people on things such as like LinkedIn, which I think is great
Mhm.
to understand who is working remote. Like you can sort of tell
Mhm.
through like just different things now, like websites of like companies saying we're fully remote or whatever,
Mhm.
and just reaching out and being like, hey, you might be interested. So it's a lot of scrappy work.
Mhm.
Um, as I said, like from Instagram DMs to all sorts. But like I think especially like one thing as a product person that I learned and
Mhm.
that like product leaders and mentors of mine and friends have said is like your first 100 customers are like everything, especially in the
Yeah.
early stage. So the people that we've managed to onboard are like super important to us because I think
Yeah.
they're going to really guide the direction of the business.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be our advocates when we're at, I don't know, like 10,000 ground floors or whatever
Yeah.
it is, because they're going to be able to be honest with us because they've been through the journey when it was just like an MVP to
Mhm.
where it might be in a couple of years. And it allows us, and for us, we're really trying to learn and iterate as quick as possible. Like, don't forget,
Mhm.
we're working in the real world, and it's not like software where you can
Yeah.
just do something tomorrow or in the next hour. Like,
Yeah.
we're talking about real estate and construction.
Yeah.
So trying to merge like technology and design with like real estate is things are a bit slower. Let's say that,
Mhm.
but I think therefore you have to be a lot more calculated with those moves because
Yeah.
they can really bite you, and you can't
Yeah.
reverse it.
Yeah.
It's not like reversing a GitHub pull or PR request.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
It's
them
not the
the
same, bro.
repo. Once it's out there, it's out there. So yeah,
Yeah.
you better make sure.
Wow, sounds like interesting work, and I agree with you. And I feel like, the way you said that your culture with like, the people that people first. I feel like you're not gonna have any problems treating your customers like that. You're not just seeing them as a check. You actually want to meet them. You want to get to know them and stuff like that. And like you said, that's like part of what you do. I wanted to go back to something you said earlier in terms of criteria, because you said that you speak to people on the phone. So is it like anybody can get into it, or is it certain people? Is it?
Anyone? So what? I'll give you the phone pitch. So anyone
Yeah.
can apply, but the
Yeah.
whole like as I've always said, like the whole premise and the reason why we're gonna be spoken about in the next 5 and 10 years is for
Hmm.
those people who generally need it. Like,
Yeah.
let's not lie, right? Like, I think membership clubs, country clubs, private clubs, whatever it is, they're expensive. They're not cheap. Um,
Hmm.
and that naturally already excludes people. And
Hmm.
we've tried to really be strategic with one pricing to try and really make it accessible for what San Francisco
Hmm.
is, anyways. Because I think this shouldn't just be limited to people who have come from money or
Yeah.
have fallen with money in their lap. Because I actually don't think they need this type of space because they probably got enough money or
Hmm.
have a big house or something like
Yeah.
that. And so there's people who generally need it, and I think that I'm trying to understand. One thing I always say to people is like, as soon as you enter the ground floor, like the doors of ground floor, all titles and seniority, all of that stuff's dropped. The first question shouldn't be, "What do you do for work?" We're not interested in
Okay.
that yet. We're really trying to reinvent what it means to be part of a community. Like, feel
Hmm.
confident and comfortable enough to reach out to
Yeah.
someone who might be sitting across from you, and to have
Yeah.
like a conversation, not just about work, but
Yeah.
about like what you're interested in. Like, what
Hmm.
did you do last weekend? Like, oh yeah, I'm into that. Like, where do you like stuff like that, like
Yeah.
personable, like conversations, not like, oh yeah, I'm earning this, so I'm trying to get a promotion. Like, that should be the last thing. Do you get what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like, once you've established that core relationship, but
Yeah.
I think people just want to come together and be around good people, and that's what I say.
Hmm.
And so, if you equally align with that, then mate, come and join the club. It's that simple.
Wow, this is such an interesting concept, and I can't wait to see how it grows. I'm like really intrigued to see how it's gonna grow, and hopefully seeing a club in London
One
as
day,
well that I can join and be part of. Because I feel like for like a lot of entrepreneurs as well, it can feel lonely sometimes, like when you're just, on your own. And I feel like a space like that is gonna be like a good place to connect with other people. It's almost like you are starting your own companies, doing your own companies, but you're like colleagues as well, like talking about like other stuff and getting to know each other. Like, yeah, it's a really cool concept, and I really, really like it. What's the goals? I don't know if you three have thought about 5 years, 10-year goals, Have you gotten that far, or you're just like, you know what, let's just get through the first year, let's get through the first 2-3 years, and then we'll see what's
No,
happening from there.
I think look, the goal is, and this is something that Jamie actually said when we were talking about equity shares and if I was generally invested in this very early on. Is like he said to me, like, I want to be doing this when I'm 40. I want this to go to my kids,
Okay.
like generally.
Wow.
And so he actually tried to do me dirty, but he didn't give me less equity because he thought like a lot of the time it's like, you know, people just want to jump in and make quick cash and like bounce. But I say it's
And bounce.
ain't
Yeah.
quick. There's so much like you're putting in your blood,
Yeah.
sweat, and tears into this. Like it's a big thing. But
Yeah.
some people just want to do it for like maybe 5-10 years and just leave and enjoy life, right? But what I said to Jamie is that I'm very passionate just about people, and Groundfloor allows me to do that every day. Just converse with like new people about different things every day, and I don't think there's a job like that I could do in the world where I'm actually making real relationships at the same time. Like, you know, I remember there's a photo of me on Groundfloor Insta where I'm having a glass of wine, just laying down with my laptop at like 5 p.m. on a Thursday or a Friday. Like I'm having conversation about real things, and what's important to people. Not none of this like surface stuff, like or fickle things. Like just generally having a laugh, man. And I think that stuff is so important. So, you know, I generally would. I want Groundfloor to be as big as Soho House. I'm not gonna lie to you. We're not Soho House, like as I've said. We're not WeWork either. And I think we're trying to like every day we're defining what we are, what we're not, anyways. Which I think naturally will then guide us to what we are. But I genuinely believe like there's a real space for just something that allows, you know, you were even mentioning like Groundfloor, even just for entrepreneurs, but a lot of our members are just people who work for standard companies, the everyday person.
Okay.
And people forget that. Like there's people just grinding and doing stuff, but they're not talked about or they're not shouted about because they're just consistent and good at what they do, right? It's like whether it be like, I don't know, a customer service exec or a product designer or whatever, like, or a nurse from like we've got a nurse who's even like a member of Ground. Like there's people who are just doing like great things day to day, and I think they should be able to also have access to these beautiful elevated spaces to meet other cool people in different industries, because I think intersectional spaces just create magical conversations, man. And so that's really what I'm about. And I think like I'd love to have a ground floor in just neighborhoods that I think are like socially underserved. And what I mean by that is that traditionally, like maybe not many people would have thought of going there because like they're like there's not much there, or you know, I want to be in the depths of like a metropolitan city. But you know, as I said, there's this new world of hybrid work, so people are being able to move out to places where they get more space and stuff. But as I said, people still need to meet other people, right? That's not gonna go away. And I always say it becomes much more difficult to create new friendships and relationships once you're outside of organized institutions such as school, work, or university, for example, or a religious institution for that matter. So I see Ground Floor acting as that new pillar in that type of space for adults who, you know, as I say, are either in a new place and they don't know what to do, so they need friends, or for adults who have been in that place but their friends have like left, so they're then lonely. And then the third segment is for people whose friends are still in the same locality but they all think alike and they want to meet new people who don't necessarily think alike, who they can also learn from. So that's how I see like the three sort of sectors for the type of people we're looking for at Ground Floor and who make up our membership base.
Wow. That's epic. That is epic. That's absolutely amazing, man. Like, everything you're saying, like I could just see it. I could see the vision. I don't know why Combinator couldn't see the vision. I can clearly see. And I think the reason why I can see that is because I guess even both of us, I think we've both been in that unique situation. Like I'm still doing my 9 to 5, but I'm also, doing Savvy Wallet on the side. But for both of them, I'm working from home, right? And I'm pretty much work from home like all the time. I can go into the office, like it's not like a problem. But I feel like I can see why there's definitely a need for that, because even before my current company, which has a great culture, I would say that the previous company was lacking in that culture, lacking in them kind of spaces where it felt like homely. I could meet like-minded people. Yeah, maybe I could meet like-minded people, but it wasn't just in the best spaces. So therefore, you didn't even really want to be in the office. So yeah, I can definitely like see that. I wanted to understand, right? Because obviously you've done, you've been in the startup world for quite a bit now. I wanted to understand like what lessons have you kind of learned from your first startup that you did to this one that you're working with in Groundfloor,
Like, I think,
and what you apply and how you applying it. Yeah.
I think, firstly, it's just the fact of like, I'd say, just being a lot smarter with money, being a lot more
Mhm.
like bullish and aggressive with how
Mhm.
money is used. I think,
Yeah.
I think start you need you te- like realistically, every startup needs money. Like, no matter what anyone says, even if you're bootstrapping it yourself,
Yeah.
you're like bootstrapping it because it needs cash, right? So
Mhm.
I think learning the fact that
Mhm.
you can see money escape and not know where it's escaping to, or it's not being used directly on,
Mhm.
I guess, the product, which is all that actually matters at the time, is like the main, I think, big
Mhm.
mistake in learning I've made. And we try and ensure, in particular, like Jamie, he's very like on the numbers to make sure we're like spending on the
Mhm.
right things. So we run a
Yeah.
very like lean operation in terms of like on the ground
Mhm.
staff. Sometimes the property is like not, it's like self service technically. It's not even manned for some
Mhm.
few hours, which is very different to all the other concepts. And I think for us, like we're really trying to build a place that enables that. Like we're trying to build, like physical assets that enable people to feel
Mhm.
comfortable and safe in. So yeah, I would guess
Yeah.
that that's the biggest like learning. And then I guess other than that is that working like 24/7 around the clock sometimes also doesn't get you results. I actually
Mhm.
remember my dad laughs about it all the time. There was a time where I was doing some work in the first startup, and I would wake up at
Mhm.
like, must be like 5:45, and not go to bed,
Wow.
like literally working on it all the way up until like 11 o'clock at night,
Wow.
because I was doing a lot of publishing of content at that time for one of
Mhm.
our like mini products that we built called Summit,
Mhm.
and that was all about like just giving people bite-sized news summaries, like constantly, like literally as it happened. So
Mhm.
as you can imagine, news happens literally every second of the day. So
Yeah.
it was trying to be the first one there. So I realized that stuff was just killing me, and we saw
Mhm.
we saw some good results, but what I think from ground like I've learned is that you really need to take some time for yourself. And I think me
Mhm.
and Jamie really try and ensure everyone in the team does that.
Yeah.
Because like, at the end of the day, like life's about living, man. Life's not about like
Mhm.
dying for work. Like there's more to work. Like
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't love
Exactly.
what you do, but like like I don't think we're on this world just to work. That's quite that's in itself.
100%. 100%.
So yeah,
100%. My
that's it, man.
gosh. Wow. Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. How many employees do
There
you guys have
is,
now?
I think we got three. Yeah, three now.
Wow. Including the founders, so there's about six of you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow. In less than a year. This is crazy how much can happen in a year, right?
I know.
Because if you think about this year, this same time a year ago, you hadn't even gotten to the part where you were going for funding.
Nah.
So you've managed to do that, get us a lot of funding, move to San Francisco, build your club, get get members, hire employees. You guys have done a lot. You should be proud. You should be
Nah, I
really proud.
appreciate it, man. I
Done a
appreciate
lot, like a lot. Like I'm proud, man. It's really nice to hear those kind of stories, and which is why I wanted to get you onto the podcast. I already knew I was gonna get you on, but this is the kind of stories that like I want the listeners to hear, because I feel like it's gonna help them navigate their journey. And also as well, I think like like when people become successful, a lot of people think that we know every step of what we're doing. We just always know what we're doing, like as if. But that's not the truth. Sometimes the difference is that you're willing to take the leap and be like, you know what, I actually might not know fully, but I'm happy to learn and just keep on adjusting and keep on improving and just keep on getting better over time. And I think that's what sets people from being a really good entrepreneur to just being maybe standard, because they're just willing to just get stuck in it and do the dirty work. So yeah, no, it's a great story. I really enjoyed having you on this podcast. I wanted to get like, what's next for you at the moment?
Next, well, as I
Mm-hmm.
said, firstly getting back to San Francisco and continuing
Mm-hmm.
this grind for sort of getting the right people to join our community at
Yeah.
Groundfloor and stuff. And then I guess, in theory, location number 2, man. We are
Okay.
currently,
Wow. Ready.
yeah,
Mad.
we're currently talking about that. Heaven, I mean, we should have been figuring it out yesterday, but that's the next step, man. It's literally like
Wow.
at the end of the year, we want to have 3 locations opened.
Wow, 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 wow. I wish you luck in that, and we'll touch base on that again. Probably bring you back in when you I don't know. Whatever you say is successful. When you say, Atto, okay, we got 15 locations now. I'll come back onto the podcast to talk about like how that happened. Yeah, I'm ready. 15, 30, 100, ready for that. And do you have a last word for the people?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone, I don't want to say because I always say like, oh yeah, everyone shout me in it because it's always super difficult because like obviously like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just hella busy and my time zone
Yeah,
being 8 hours behind. Yeah, ain't no
yeah.
joke. So, but like, look, I'm always happy to people hit me up on emails. It might take me a bit longer, but happy to try and like provide guidance more so. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can't do anything for you. I always feel like it's
Mm-hmm.
it's generally down to you. And I'm not trying to, be some sort of preacher, but that's the truth, man. Like I think, but
Mm-hmm.
these sort of like podcasts where, we're sort of chopping it up and talking about it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
hoping it like helps at least like one person or even a
Yeah.
tiny bit, man. It's
Mm-hmm.
been and it's also just been very nice for you having me on, man. And I really appreciate it because
Mm-hmm.
I haven't reflected on this whole
Mm-hmm.
journey up until this.
Yeah.
As I said, it's now been 30 years that I've been on this earth, man, and just thinking
Yeah.
about all of that is actually mad.
Mm-hmm. It's
Um,
crazy, man. You've done a lot. You've done a lot in 30 years, man. You should be proud. You've done a lot. And that's the thing. Sometimes we don't look back and be like, you know what? Wow, I've achieved all that. I've done all that. We're always, I think, especially like really hungry people, really determined people, focused people, they're always looking forward for what's next, without reflecting, wow, like I achieved all of this. This is all the skills that I've sort of built up. So yeah, this podcast is a little bit like therapy sometimes as
yeah,
well.
that's good,
I
man.
find for people, yeah, it's a little bit like therapy as well for people. So yeah, no, I agree. I hope that the listeners. I hope that you've taken a lot from Jermaine's story. You feel inspired by it. Do reach out to him. Where can people find you? What's
Yeah,
ground floors like? Where can they find ground floor on yourself?
yeah. So we got our Instagram handles like Ground Floor Club on Instagram, and then
Hmm.
my my to be honest, my account's private, so my social account, so because I like keeping my life down low. But you can hit me up
Hmm.
on like my Raphael, so RAPHAEL, and then my last name IJIEH at gmail.com. And just shoot me an email if you ever need anything or just need some like tips. But you know, yeah, thanks again, Atto. Massively appreciate you, man.
No,
And
well,
you come a long way, man, as well. So these podcasts are
hmm
sick, man, and just
thank
they're
you.
doing for like financial literacy amongst
Yeah.
black people and just people of our culture and stuff. I think stuff like this is
Yeah.
needed. We don't talk about it enough, and everyone's trying to make whether it's their idea or their journey a secret, and I don't think it ever should be because people need to learn. Like
Hmm.
everyone needs to try and help get the other person up. I don't believe in handouts. I believe in hand ups. So,
Yeah.
I think
Love that.
people need to recognize that because that's how we like move as a race in totality,
Hmm.
black, white, whatever it is.
Hmm.
Like that's what it's about. So yeah, man. But I appreciate you, man. Still, as I said.
Thank you, and I agree. Hand up, I love that. I'm gonna use that in the future. Hand up, that is sick. I appreciate you for spending the time to come onto this episode, listeners. I hope that you got your notebooks out for this one, and thank you for joining us today and listening to us and spending some time with us. We'll speak to you in next week's episode. Thank you.